What's up, YouTube? In this video, we're going to be covering the true cost of investment fees and why this is so extremely important for you to be paying attention to right now in your investments if you're someone that's serious about reaching your goal of financial freedom. We're going to look at some numbers together to make this a lot more clear. So by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly the true cost of investment fees in your portfolio. Quick intro before we dive in. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jose Hernandez. I'm an online financial education company that serves first-generation wealth builders, people like you and me. People are the first person in their family to start investing or think about investing. And my mission is to help first-generation wealth builders like you reach your goal of financial freedom and or building generational wealth for your family. Got my start in the financial industry as a wealth management advisor, where I earned my Series 7 to 66 licenses, work with wealthy individuals, got some top mentorship from some of the best financial advisors in the industry before eventually leaving the industry and starting my own thing to help people just like you, thousands of first-generation wealth builders across the world. So let's go ahead and dive into today's video. And again, we're going to be covering the real cost of investment fees inside your portfolio. So this is abundantly clear for you and you understand why this is important for you to be paying attention to. So we're going to be covering two primary types of fees in your portfolio, namely related to your investments. There's all sorts of costs that you can come across in your investing, but we're going to keep today simple. The first type of fee or cost that you're going to run into in your investing journey are commissions and sales loads. So commissions refers to when you actually place a trade to buy or sell an investment. This can happen on the actual platform that you're investing through. The good thing is nowadays, most investing platforms have moved to commission-free trading, but I know that there are still some platforms out there that charge you per trade. I know some international people run into that from time to time. But like I said, it hasn't become as much of an issue nowadays because most platforms offer commission-free trading. And if you don't have one that does that, I recommend that you move one to one that does. The other type is referred to as sales loads, which is very similar to commissions, which apply when you're buying or selling investments. But these typically apply to mutual funds. So if you're currently buying or selling mutual funds as a part of your investment strategy, this is something to pay attention to. And there's all sorts of types of mutual funds out there, and the type of mutual fund that you're buying or selling determines what type of sales load or commission you're paying. But this is something that could definitely cost you money without even realizing. So let's look at an example together. So here we're looking at a list of different mutual funds that a potential person could pick from, maybe inside of their retirement plan or in their investment portfolio. So to the right, you'll see two columns. One says front load and the other one says expense ratio. For the time being, we're going to focus on that front load column. So front load is a fancy way of saying the commission that you pay up front when you buy shares of an investment, or in this case, a mutual fund. And this typically refers to Class A mutual funds. So basically, what the front load is part of the money that you put towards buying the mutual fund is actually going towards commission to the broker that sold the mutual fund to you. And why this is an issue is because that's money that could have gone towards buying the shares, but it's simply just going towards commissions, and it's simply going towards fees. And this can certainly add up over time the more shares that you're buying. There's also back-end loads that apply to other types of mutual funds, but we're going to keep it simple and just focus on front loads for the time being. So here's an example of that. We're looking at the AIM Real Estate Mutual Fund, which I'm assuming is some form of real estate mutual fund. And this currently has a front load of 5.5%, meaning that all the money that you put into this fund to buy the shares, of that money, 5.5% of it is simply going towards commissions, right? So that's money that could have gone towards buying assets, towards building wealth, but it's simply just going towards commission. And as you hopefully know by now, the more shares you're able to pick up in your wealth building journey, the more wealth you're able to accumulate over time. But this is a hindrance to that because now we have some of that money, instead of going to buying assets, it's simply going to commissions. Another example of that would be like the Columbia Acorn mid-cap growth fund that you're seeing there. It has a 5.75% front load, meaning 5.75% of the money you're putting into the fund, or another way of saying is for every $100 that you put into this fund, $5.75 is going simply to commissions. And again, this is extremely important for you to pay attention to. I've had a good amount of clients that I've worked with over the years that were working with some form of either advisor or financial institution that was using funds like this. And this is how those companies typically can make their money, is by collecting these commissions every time you buy shares of the mutual fund. And 9 times out of 10, it's kind of funny to see the correlation, but sometimes the more expensive funds typically are some of the worst. I've seen plenty of situations where clients and students in the past were buying these really expensive mutual funds that had these high fees tied to them, and those mutual funds, for lack of better words, sucked, right? There's much less inexpensive options out there like index funds or ETFs that don't have these types of commissions tied to them. And it's really important for you to be paying attention to this. So that's the first type of fee that we're going to talk about today. The second type of fee is all encompassing. We're going to call it management fees. Now, this can refer to what's called expense ratios, or basically the management expense ratio that's tied to mutual funds and other types of funds that you can invest in. And it also can apply to management fees if you're working with an asset manager, basically someone that's managing your investments for you. The high-level understanding that I want you to have here is management fees are typically based off of a percentage of the money that's being invested or managed for you. So typically it's like, for example, 1% of the money that you have invested. That'd be 1% of the money that you have being managed is going towards fees, basically. And where you have to really be careful with this is a lot of these percentages in the grand scheme of things sound small. But what a lot of people don't realize is as your wealth continues to grow, as your wealth continues to compound, so do the fees that you're paying, whether it's the expense ratios in the funds that you're owning and using, or the management fees that you're paying for your portfolio. Of the 2 types of fees that we're talking about today, I think this is probably the most impactful and can really lead to the largest amount of money you're paying out of pocket for management of your investments. And this is why I want to spend at least a little bit of time on this, because I really want you to understand how these work. So we're going back to the visual that we're looking at earlier. Now we're going to be focusing on the most to the right column, the expense ratio column. As you'll notice, some of these funds have both a front load and also an expense ratio, but let's look at this Royce Total Return Fund together for just 1 second. This is a small cap value fund, meaning it invests in small cap value stocks. And the expense ratio for this particular fund is 1.08%. So meaning you're paying 1.08% in fees of the total amount that you have in this fund. And you'll notice there are some funds that have both a front load tied to them and also an expense ratio. An example of that, we looked at the AIM real estate fund together just a second ago. Let's look at it again. That one, as you recall, has a 5.5% front load, meaning 5.5% of the money that you're putting into this fund is simply going to commissions. And then it also has an expense ratio of 1.26%. So not only are you paying a commission on the shares you're buying, part of the money that's going into this fund is also going to go straight to just management fees. So the expense ratio is another way of saying just like the all-in annual percentage that you are paying for the fees of this fund being managed for you. And again, this can also apply to investment management fees if you're working with like an asset manager. But I really wanted to take a second to show you why this is so important for you to understand. And all it takes is a quick Google search to look up what you're paying for all the different investments inside your portfolio. It literally takes less than 5 minutes to go through your portfolio, look up the ticker symbols, look up the expense ratio on Google, and you'll know exactly what you're paying. And again, there's much cheaper alternatives out there that can perform just as well, if not better in a lot of cases. Let me share a quick story with you to show you how actually real this is. So when I left the industry and started my own financial education company, one of my first students is Simon. Great guy, really hardworking guy, family man. One of his biggest goals was to provide generational wealth for his children, but super busy. Sales professional, kind of grinding it out day to day. Very busy type of person. And even though he was doing well for himself financially and he was doing the things right in terms of just putting money away and investing, he always felt like, well, this stuff is just really overwhelming. I don't have the time to learn it. And he decided to work with someone that was going to manage his investments for him at 1.75% per year as far as the management cost of the service was. And Simon at the time didn't think too much of it. He's like, well, it doesn't sound like a big number. I'm a busy guy. I probably don't need to worry about it too much. But after some time, he started wondering, well, am I actually doing the right thing here? Should I actually be paying more attention to what this person's doing for me? Should I be paying more attention to how investing works and maybe think about doing it myself? So he decided to work with me, decided to get educated, and we sat down at one point in time and had a conversation. He's like, man, I've been going through your program and learning a lot about how fees actually have a big impact on my wealth. And we actually looked at this exact calculation that we're looking at together. So there's plenty of online investment fee calculators that you can look at after this video if you want to check it out. But this was his example. He was being charged at 1.75% annually for the management fee. And what blew his mind is if he didn't change anything over the course of his investing journey, that small 1.75%, which he didn't think sounded like a lot of money at the time, would have compounded to over $1 million in fees. So he could have had over $2.8 million in wealth over the course of his investing journey if he wasn't paying that 1.75%. But as it stood, he was only going to have around $1.8 million. And the crazy part about the story for Simon was, we had all these conversations and he started learning like what goes into investing and creating a financial plan and all the stuff that we talked about together. And when he approached the person that was charging him the 1.75%, he's like, hey, why haven't we had any conversations around my financial goals? Why haven't we had any conversations around my tax picture? Why haven't we had any conversations around my comfort with risk? All these different things that someone should be helping you with. The person turned back and said to Simon, well, that's not really my job. So what this person did was just put Simon into this random portfolio, was charging him 1.75% and was providing no value, no help whatsoever. So luckily, Simon was able to take control of his investments and is now, successful in managing his own portfolio. And more important of all, he's saving $1 million in fees. And that's $1 million that could go towards his kids. He could go towards a family home. It could go towards a vacation home. It could go towards so many things instead of just paying fees for the sake of paying fees. And one of the last things I want to cover here to wrap up is helping you see the bigger picture. As I share with all my clients and students, there are 3 major stages or phases to your investing journey as an investor. And in this first one, it's called the accumulation stage. This is where you're building your wealth from scratch, basically. This is the worst stage for you to be getting bogged down with investment fees, commissions, and expense ratios, because at this stage, every single dollar counts. You need as much money to stay inside your portfolio so you can really get that power of compound interest working for you, because this is such a crucial stage in your investing journey, and you really want to keep as much money in your portfolio as possible. When it starts to potentially make sense for you to be paying expense ratios and management fees and things like that is in that third stage, which is called the distribution stage, the retirement stage. There's all sorts of names for it, but this is basically where you've built enough wealth already to where you can actually afford to be paying a percentage of your assets towards management fees, especially if you're actually receiving value and service for the fee that you're paying, unlike Simon was at that stage. So really important to understand this first stage. If you're building your wealth from scratch, like many of us here are, it's important to protect the wealth inside your portfolio and not let it go to waste, simply going to fees and investment costs just for the sake of paying fees. So really important for you to understand before we wrap up here. So next steps are simple. If you're still watching this and you're serious about reaching your goal of financial freedom, you're serious about building that generational wealth for your family, you're serious about taking the steps to take control of your finances and investments, but you just need some help along the way, what you can do is in the description to this video, you're going to see a link where you can schedule a one-on-one conversation with myself, not my team, not anyone else. It's with me. We can sit down, have a deeper conversation around your goals, what you're doing right now with your investments, and see how I can point you in the right direction. So again, the link to that is in the description to this video down below. But I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. That's going to be all for me in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.